Welcome back, folks, to another episode of the Yankees Farm Report. Happy to be back. There's been an unusual amount of movement throughout the system very early on. Usually we see this towards the end of May, I want to say, maybe even June. But for the past 2 weeks, we've seen Judge Lombard moving up. Elmer Rodriguez got the call, and today the long-awaited call of Spencer Jones was made, and we'll get into a little bit of that later on. We're going to talk about the FCL season, which just kicked off, the players of the week, Baseball America's Top 100, and who's hot, and some breakdowns. Getting right into the FCL. FCL started last week. I think it was Saturday, I want to say.
Saturday.
Yeah. Right off the bat, you got a couple guys that are really hot. Richard Matique, which everyone was expecting big things from him. He's hitting 316, 381, base percentage, 802 OPS, two doubles, two RBIs, three steals. Wilberson DePena, who I'm very surprised with the early returns on. He's hitting 444, 1363 OPS, five extra base hits, a home run, eight RBIs. Lenny Donier, 375, 444 on base, 1293 OPS, two extra base hits, five RBIs. Luis Puello, 375, 1069 on base OPS, two extra base hits, a home run, three RBIs. And Justin Capellan is hitting 375 with 1250 OPS, two extra base hits, a home run, and two RBIs. So I'm really surprised, pleasantly surprised at the explosion of offense at the FCL because it's been down the last couple years, I want to say.
Yeah, ever since that season where it was John Cruz and Roderick,
I believe it was 23.
yeah, that was 23. And yeah, there was more names in there.
Yeah.
What's the guy we traded to Pittsburgh, the shortstop,
Delgado.
second baseman?
Kind of
Delgado,
Delgado.
yeah.
Kind of Delgado.
Um, yeah, that was just a really good team. And
Hmm.
obviously we traded some guys away, and some of those guys on that team, Henry Lalane, things just haven't kind of gone right for them since moving to full season.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been a bit of a disappointing go around the last couple of years for FCL. Obviously, we've talked in depth about the issues of the um, the scouting and player development and the DSL, and that feeds directly to FCL. So it's good to see a hot start for them. And there's key guys that you want to watch right now. It just didn't feel like that last year. I feel like I was never looking at what the FCL score was
Yeah.
because just none of these guys were really feeling like impact players.
Yeah, I don't think anybody was hot if you want to say, especially coming right off the blocks. It was disappointing to say the least, especially like I said, with the 2023 team was very hot. Baseball America couldn't stop talking about them. I believe they even went to the championship. I think
Yeah, that
they
sounds
lost the
right.
championship season. But it was a very good team. And just to you made a comment in reference to development. And this is something that I wanted to broach maybe later on. But let me just get into it right now. Today we saw who was it? Who was it? Who was it? Omar Martinez got the call today. And if you look back under Donnie Roland, that would make about 50 players that have been called to the big leagues now. Um, under Roland's under his tenure. So I mean, in some aspects, you have to count that as a win or a modicum of success to get 50 IFA players to the big league levels, regardless of if they became superstars or not. I mean, the idea is your scout team finds a player, and then each level they're supposed to get them up, get them up, get them up, and eventually get them to the big leagues.
I think there's no question that they've been really good at identifying guys who could be big league players. And from the number that you just gave, they've done a good job of getting guys in position to make it to the big leagues.
Mhm.
So I think when people try to retroactively criticize what Donnie Roland did or what that department did, it's because the misses, the publicized misses that were big, overshadowed all of the other signings that were astute. And the fact that all these guys are reaching the big leagues right now. I mean, it's really, we've talked about it before, how hard it is to identify young teenagers and think, this is a guy who could be a big league player. They've done
Mhm.
that better than just about anybody else. So credit where credit's due.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the other part of it is, obviously that 2014 camp group with Jeremy Garcia and I can't. There was some other big
It
names
was
that those
Nelson
guys clearly
Gomez.
did.
Mhm.
Yeah,
You don't know the
that
names because we
besides
stopped hearing about them really fast.
yeah,
Yeah.
but besides that miss of a class, there was good work done. I would say it was really that 2018, 19 year where really things started to take a turn for worse. So it's not like there wasn't success under Rowland, but it
Mhm.
had just really turned sour recently. And the way there's less draft capital, especially for the Yankees, and there's less IFA capital sometimes, even though they tried to trade for some. You need to be stronger, and you don't have as much leeway. And it's not that there wasn't good guys coming through the system. I know Omar Martinez obviously got cut this offseason, picked up by the Angels. Congrats to him. I didn't even know he got called up. But it's not that there wasn't talent found. It's just the consistency of it had waned too much, and it was obvious when you look at
Mhm.
the system.
Yeah, and I think also you add that to the misses. Well, I don't want to specifically say misses, but you had a lot of high price IFAs that didn't make the impact that was
hmm
expected of them.
And that's like I've said before, when you don't have as much playing room, those top guys they matter more because they're taking up so much of your budget. You don't have the chance to go get a couple Brando Maeas. You're only on Brando Maea.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's the wiggle room isn't as much as you would get in other places.
Which
Hmm.
made me think about DePena. Would you think that that was a guy
hmm
they had interest in and during the signing process and they weren't able to pull him in and so they just followed him and that was when the opportunity came to acquire him, they made that move, or do you think that was more of a scouting the DSL and this is a guy we liked? What would you think about that?
I'm not sure because I don't even know what he signed for. I mean, I could look real quick to see what he signed for.
It wouldn't surprise me if that's a guy they were tracking, especially if you're getting a guy who's barely played any organized baseball. You'd think they have some idea what you were before. Um, and I think that's just the thing. Even you think back to Cade Winquist this offseason, the reason they targeted him is because they liked him in the draft, and obviously they liked some of what they saw in the minor leagues, even if he didn't stand out. So I think there's always a bit of that history in who you know.
I mean, he didn't even come up in the signing, so I would imagine he was under 10,000. But I mean, it could be. I mean, we've heard of that story before, right? Where Cashman was after Gleyber Torres for so long, and then he
Yeah,
finally got him a couple years later.
I was just thinking of that example.
Rounding out the FCL, you had Wyatt Parliament. He made his pro debut. He threw 5 innings, 1 run. It was unearned, 2 hits, 5 strikeouts. A very good debut, in my opinion. Omar Gonzalez threw 3 innings of shutout baseball, 4 strikeouts. I would have expected Omar to be started with Tampa this year. I mean, I would imagine it's just the glut of guys, college guys that they need to get up to the affiliate teams is the only reason why he was held back because I thought he was pretty good last year at the FCL. And Thatcher Hurd threw 4 shutout innings, a walk, 2 strikeouts.
It's great to have him on the mound.
Yeah, I said to I said with FCL coming up that I said to you, Carlos, I bet we're going to see Hurd, and if we see Hurd, I bet we're going to see Parliament and Hampton.
Hmm.
Obviously, I haven't seen Hampton yet,
Hmm.
but it was very unsurprising to me that both Hurd and Parliament pitched, and yeah, I expect them to do the Xavier Rivas thing, probably get 4 or 5 starts over this month, and then in June get a jump into Tampa.
Hmm.
Uh,
You posted that video of Rafael Arias.
Yeah.
There's some dirtiness there in that guy's arsenal. I had to go back. I'm gonna admit that that's not a guy I was familiar with, but now I'm interested. He's not a baby, but that's
No.
okay. I
Yeah.
got a feeling that he's coming up as a reliever.
Hmm.
But there's some interesting things going on there.
and I just also want to shout out going to the hitter side. I think hopefully everyone knows, when you see a minor league lineup, Yankees are putting it in order basically who they believe in the most. That
Hmm.
top 4 or 5, those are the guys that they have a lot of faith in.
Hmm.
Lenny Donay was a guy I really wasn't like on. Not that I didn't, not in the sense I didn't think of anything. I just didn't really know him. I just saw his name, really never thought much of it. The fact
Hmm.
that he's hitting second really spoke to me. Obviously Kenny Pineda and Richard Matique were the main guys
Hmm.
that we were all excited for on the hitting side coming up. But yeah, Donay hitting second and doing well so far. I guess DePayne has also hit second a little bit, but
Yeah.
the point is, those are the main four taking up the 1 through 4 slots. So those are guys that they clearly like. Like I said, two of them we were well aware of. Two of them are new for me. So it's very interesting to see. They've played really well so far. Hopefully we might get some late summer call-ups to low A for the ones that do the best.
And
Yeah,
I'm
I
glad
got.
you mentioned that because Dexter's Peralta has been hitting seventh.
Hmm.
And
Mhm.
that's a guy, I don't know if you want to say he was aggressively promoted, but it wouldn't be
He was, I would
unfair
I
to
say.
mean, he's
say
still
that.
18, right? He's still
Yeah,
18, right?
I would say
Yeah.
he was aggressively promoted.
Yeah.
I don't think
But
he.
I was wondering if he's pushed down the lineup because they like the guys in front of him that much, or if it's just, or if they're down on him. I don't know. I don't know what to think of that spot. Because to your point, Aaron, that's how I look at it too. I thought that was a curious placement for him as far as getting at bats, but he's gotten off to a pretty good start. I know it's really early. We're in small sample size season.
I mean,
Um,
he's already got two home runs.
yeah, right.
I think he did that last year. But one of the other things, like you said, he got the early promotion to the FCL, which that has to account for something as far as how the Yankees feel
Hmm.
about him, because there were other guys that they could have plugged at shortstop, and they pretty much gave him full burn.
Yeah.
Was he playing shortstop this week? I can't
Yeah,
remember.
He's played
Yeah,
shortstop
I
every
mean,
game.
that's still it wouldn't surprise me if they soured on him a little bit. Maybe if they felt they were overzealous.
Mhm.
Um, but I think at this FCL level, you can't be thinking about a guy being done, especially when you promoted so early. So it is. I agree, Carl Marcus. It definitely caught me a little bit surprised seeing him so low. But I don't put too much stock into it in the fact that he can easily get himself back up like that at this point.
Because I think he's physically still, I mean, he was raw last year. He looked that way. So this guy's, maturing. You look at Roderick Arias now with Hudson Valley and what he looks like physically compared to what he would have been a couple years ago. And he's a maturing person. So you can give him some time here to grow into his body.
I'm not mistaken. I think Dexter signed for 150K. I believe it was 150K. I mean, that could also play into it. Also, the fact that, like you said, he struggled last season. Take the pressure off of him
Hmm.
by putting him lower in the lineup. I mean, it
Yeah, that's
seems
a
to be
good
paying off
point.
so far.
But you were on Donier, and that's a
Yeah.
name I'm with you, Aaron, that I wasn't exactly on him just yet, but now I'm really interested. And Matik played opening day at first base.
Yeah.
You
He
think
played.
he's going to move corner to corner here throughout the season?
I
I
would
mean,
say so because Donier is a third baseman by
Yeah.
trade.
I know there was
I think today he played second
concern.
base, though, by the way.
Hmm.
I know there's concern about Matik's body type, and that even if he was being a third baseman now, he likely is going into a first baseman. I definitely, when some of the clips that Carlos posted, you can see he's a big guy, and he's what, 19. He's only going to get bigger.
Right.
So I definitely think it makes sense to start approaching that switch, not to see, hey, maybe he could keep some the athleticism to play third base. Um, but if he's going to go pro, I see it as a first baseman.
In which case he'd have to hit a lot.
Yeah, but he has the power, so we'll see how it goes. It's definitely not something to concern ourselves too much with right now. And they're hitting him leadoff, so that
Yeah.
that says a lot of how
Oh,
they
you're right
felt about
about
him.
that. It's a tough
Eh,
profile, though. If you're a right first baseman, that is a tough profile to get through the system.
Vladimir Guerrero,
Yeah, not
I can't even
impossible,
say that.
just a
That's a
tough
very
one.
different,
That's
very
exactly what I was
different
thinking about.
type
I
player.
will
But
say if
yeah,
he's Vladimir
I know
Guerrero,
what you mean.
I'd gladly eat my words if he's Vladimir Guerrero.
Another thing I noticed about this team is that they're carrying seven catchers, which is crazy to me.
Yeah, and Kenny is the guy that you imagine is going to get a low, but he was off today, and they had Capelan and Puelo, right? Puelo.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's going to be an interesting little mix. They really signed a lot of catchers. They need the catching depth. Uh,
Yeah.
It's like a spring
I
training team. Like guys are throwing
yeah.
bullpens while the game's going on.
I mean, the guy today was John Christie. Is it no Cristino?
Cristino.
He had
Cristino,
three
right?
home
Yeah.
runs today. He played with Tampa last year. I can't imagine he's going to be here long at the FCL. I'm trying to
He got
think.
some
I
time
think
in Hudson
it's
Valley last year too, I think.
I think he
Maybe
may
not.
I
have
think so.
I thought
towards
I
the end
saw
of
him
Yeah,
the
play
year.
last
he's
year.
definitely a bit of a organizational filler guy.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
All right. Moving on to Tampa, starting with the players of the week, you have Brandon Maya. He hit 316, 876 OPS, two extra base hits, a home run, five RBIs, and a stolen base. Maya has been playing really well heading into last night. He had a nine or over his last nine games, he was hitting 303 with an 846 OPS, four extra base hits, a home run, five RBIs. Emmanuel Tejada hit 304, 907 OPS, three extra base hits, a home run, three RBIs. Emmanuel has been hot. Over the last 14 games, he's hitting 355 with a 1034 OPS, nine extra base hits, two home runs, 11 RBIs. He's doing his thing, 13% walk rate, 17% strikeout rate. Jackson Lovich has hit 273 with a 1021 OPS, two extra base hits, a home run, and two RBI round out the offensive players.
I think the contrast in at bats so far, in what I've seen between Tejeda and Maeda stands out. Like Maeda still doesn't always take the cut at the pitch that he's going to drive. He's still that pitch selection piece for him is still coming. Where Tejeda's at bats, I think he gets himself into good counts and he takes his walks. That's
Mhm.
kind of he's 21, but he has some mature at bats for a 21-year-old. And Maya obviously is playing a little catch up because he missed a lot of time with injury. He needs a lot of at bats, and that's what I'm watching for him this season is to see if he can start to control the strike zone a little bit better, give himself a better pitch to hit.
Yeah, that 30% strikeout rate isn't gonna play. Not that it's anything I'm too overly concerned about right now, but he definitely isn't getting off to the fast start you would like to. But there is an adjustment period there, and he's been better since he came back from getting hit in the head. Thankfully, he was okay from that. So it's definitely a bit of a let's give it a bit of time, even though I'm not as high. I think a lot of people would say they're probably not as high on him as they once were, but it doesn't mean, this isn't a completely Roger Arias situation yet. He's just got here and he's still only 20.
On the pitching side of things, you have JC Etheridge, who was the Florida State Pitcher of the Week, pitched a 1.80 ERA, five innings, one run, one hit, no walks, seven strikeouts. Tyler Boudreau, four shutout innings, two hits, two walks, five strikeouts. Jose Martinez, who's been very good out of the bullpen, four innings, one earned run, a walk, four strikeouts. Brendan Stuprich made his pro debut. He went four innings, one run, three hits, two walks, six strikeouts. Mac Hewer also made his debut, three and a third, one run, no walk, four strikeouts. And Grayson Carter, who's been pitching a lot better over the past 2 weeks, three shutout innings, no walks, two strikeouts. And rounding that out with Jose Ledesma, pitched three innings, no earned runs, two hits, one walk, six strikeouts.
And he's interesting. That video you posted of him. Now, first of all, he looks like Kevin Hart in that video, but he's listed at 6 feet.
Mhm,
So, but that angle that he throws from and he
mhm.
throws hard,
Yeah,
he's
96 97.
interesting. He's
Mhm.
interesting.
Listen, the guy I want to talk about is Mac Hewer.
Yeah.
I think the Yankees, there was a lot of preseason hype on him. Baseball America was documenting that he's been up to 80, 98 on his fastball, and that he was definitely one of the higher rated arms from this past draft. But now that we've got to watch him pitch, and to be clear, he is still raw. He's a big guy who has some moving parts, and it's going to take a little bit of time to get that control to a great high level. But his stuff is special, and I just have to talk about this fastball. When you think of a fastball, if you look at a if you look at kind of a plate and the pitching angle for it, a lot of guys, their four-seam fastball is going to basically stay on that right or that arm side. It's going to stay on, for a righty, it's going to stay on that right side of the plane. His fastball has glove side horizontal movement. That is an outlier trait. That is something that most guys don't have. That makes it's basically a slightly cutting fastball on top of the also 94 mile per hour cutter he throws, which is basically a hard slider. And then he does have a sweeper. So you're talking about three extreme pitch movements to the left, an extreme four seam glove side movement, an extreme cutter glove side movement, an extreme sweeper glove side movement. That's very tough to handle, especially for right-handers. That's going to be a nightmare to go up against. I think the thing missing is something that's glove side, or arm side for him. So it's going to be interesting. Can they get something that is a little going away from lefties, but yeah, I just have to talk about that fastball because it's a true outlier pitch. Thomas TJ Stats, his pitching model has the pitch graded out as a 76 with 114 stuff plus. That's elite, potentially elite. There obviously the zone control needs work, but it's just this is a guy who is budding top 10 in the system, having thrown just 6 innings pitched.
He's definitely an interesting guy to keep an eye on. Also with Stuprich, I liked what I saw from him in his
Hmm.
debut.
And I've seen people put the reliever tag on Hewer already. And first of all, that doesn't bother me. But secondly, like big league relievers have three pitches now anyway. But you're talking elite pitches. So
And he
if
has a
we put,
curveball too that's solid.
yeah, if you can't get him to the point where he's got enough command to work as a starter, that's still a big leaguer. So
Yeah, and he's 21 years old. There's no
right,
rushing this right now.
right.
I obviously there's you can it's easy to say he has reliever risk. He's a 21-year-old in low A who's pitched 6 innings, but the upside of a high-end starter is really there for him. I think he might have the best stuff in the system behind Carlos Legrand.
High
There's
praise.
some really good pitchers in the system.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very high on Matt Hewer.
All right. Moving on to Hudson Valley. Core Jackson hit 385, 855 OPS, two extra base hits, four RBIs, a walk, a stolen base. He's coming on. Went through a mini slump there. Went through a stretch where he had 7 hits and 10 at bats. Caden Kent, who I don't think is long for this league, hit 348, 1071 OPS, five extra base hits, a home run, six RBIs. Over his last 20 games, Kent is hitting 376 with a 1018 OPS, 11 extra base hits, three home runs, 18 RBIs, and I think he came into last week without an RBI. Cam Troy hit 333 with an 1103 OPS, three extra base hits, two home runs, six RBIs. He's also getting hot over the last 10 games. He's hitting 313 with a 941 OPS, four extra base hits, two home runs. Roderick Arias hit 250 with a 540, 554 OPS over his last. I think he's riding a 7 or 8 game hitting streak right now, if I'm not mistaken. And over that, he's hitting 346 with a 919 OPS, walk rate of just under 10%, and a strikeout rate under 20%.
I think this team's given us a lot to talk about. And since you started with Core Jackson, I think Aaron, you said that he was one of your arrow down guys, right? Am I remembering that right?
Yeah, that is
Is he
very right. Yeah.
Hindenburg? Is that what it
I'm
is?
not, hey, I'm not taking a shot here because he was for me too. I think
Yeah.
the swings are starting to look better though. Like,
I
What,
think
what I,
when I
what I
was
found funny
writing,
about Core was that I liked his power from last season, and we really
Mhm.
haven't seen that this year.
I don't he that swing doesn't look built for power right now, and that's what made me hold off on him. But I think the approach is looking a little bit better, and I'm it's kind of like I want to fall in love with the guy. So keep doing this kind of stuff and you got my attention, but I'm still not there. It's kind of the way I am with Roderick too. The goods are looking better, but then you look at
Mhm.
the overall and you're kind of like we're not there yet where I'm getting excited. But the maybe I'm definitely not as down on him as I was maybe a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, when I wrote my article about the stock report, I did mention Dylan Lewis as kind of a sort of comparison with Core. And to be fair to Core Jackson, he is doing this at a higher level than Dylan Lewis was. But although he has heated up, some of the metrics are still not they're not excellent. He's still not making a lot of contact in the zone. Um, he's still he's still not hitting for the right amount of power you want to see for a guy who is supposed to have a good amount of juice in the bat. And really it's like he's not pulling the ball in the air, which is something you really want to see from someone who can do that. So like it's still not fully there, all the mechanical pieces, but he definitely has woken up and has brought some life. It's not like he's shot up like kind of Dylan Lewis did, but he's definitely showing signs of life that, hey, like to me, let's relax a little bit. Let's give me a little bit more time.
Yeah, to your point, his better swings have come driving the ball the other way and letting it travel a little bit. So I'm hoping that that's a precursor to maybe finding something that he can turn on and lift.
I think that's something you always see is when a guy is able to just stay with the ball that's going the other way and take it to left field. That's really kind of a. I remember Jazz did that before he had a couple of his home runs. He just had a nice line drive to the left center gap, and I thought, okay, I think we're getting somewhere with this. And then hits a home run a couple days later. So yeah, I agree with that analysis, Marcus.
On to the pitching side of things, Luis Serna pitched 5 2/3 shutout innings, 2 hits, 2 walks, 6 strikeouts. He's looked very good since he got to Hudson Valley. Chris Veach out of the bullpen, 3 shutout innings, a walk, 5 strikeouts. Definitely a guy for me to keep an eye on. He was very good last season with Tampa. And Tony Rossi, 2 2/3 shutout innings, 1 walk, 2 strikeouts, rounds out the pitching side of things. Just real quick, I'm looking at the Hudson team, and it's weird because this typically the Hudson team is all about the pitching, and it seems early on it's been about the hitting, and the pitching has kind of stuttered, faltered a little bit.
Yeah, and it's
I
exciting that they got so many hitters in the lineup who are interesting.
Mm.
I think it's been a little. I think it's you kind of hit on it for me, Marcus. It's been both ways because the offensive has had some really slow games and the pitching has had some slow moments. I just think there's just a lot of raw talent here. On the hitting side, we covered Core Jackson, who hasn't gotten going. Obviously, Caden Kent's looked fantastic, and like you said, I don't think he's too long to Double A. Then you guys have guys like Kyle West, who has a lot of power that just hasn't been able to get going. Wilson Rodriguez, who's been some has had some bad luck. Eric Genther, who got off to a hot start, has really cooled off, but is still an interesting prospect. So you have that on the hitting side. Then the pitching side, Rory Fox he has the look of a guy that can really be a starter. He's super athletic on the mound, and I like his pitch mix. It's just he gets through a couple good innings, then he kind of blows up a bit. Bryce Cunningham, he had his second appearance. He looked a lot better in that second
Hmm.
going. Franier Herrera, a lot of strikeouts, a lot of walks. It's kind of been, one bad start, one good start, it seems like. And then, yeah, Luis Serna, he's had a couple of iffy starts. He had that amazing first start last night. I mean, was great from a contact point, not giving up much of any.
Yeah,
But
been very
the walks, that was his first real bad walk game and took
yeah
his walk rate from like 7 to 10%. So yeah, it's the most talent. It's so much talent, but you're just seeing that rawness in it.
yeah
Even
yeah.
Alan
I was
Facundo, who
surprised when I
finally got the
looked,
call.
huh?
Even Alan Facundo who finally got the
Yeah,
call. He's had a lot of strikeouts, but he's had a lot of walks, and it's led to damage. So it's just a very raw group, but you can see the excitement in it.
yeah. Yeah. When I looked at the box score and I saw Serna had five, was it 5 walks? I think I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
And if he can build around that changeup, that's just a filthy changeup.
hmm
If the other stuff around it becomes
It's that fastball command.
playable, yeah,
Yeah, there was
it's an interesting
another
guy.
thing I noticed that he picked up a couple of ticks on the fastball because I remember he was like a 90 91 guy. Now he's 93 94.
Am I crazy or when he was in the FCL, when he was just a baby, did he throw harder before he had his injury problems? Did
And
he
I think
not
he's
throw
throwing harder
harder?
now.
You think he does? Okay. I just might be misremembering it.
Moving on to Somerset, Jackson Castillo hit 455, 1038 OPS, an extra base hit, 2 RBIs, 2 walks. He's currently got a 12-game hitting streak, which is the longest in the Eastern League. Tyler Hardman, who's going through a power surge right now, hit 440 with 1460 OPS, 5 extra base hits, 4 home runs, 10 RBIs. Marco Luciano, who's been insane, hit 429, 1500 OPS, 4 extra base hits, 4 home runs, 8 RBIs. For the season, Marco's hitting 330, or going into tonight, he's hitting 330 with 1132 OPS, 18 extra base hits, 10 home runs, 22 RBIs, a walk rate just under 11%, and a strikeout rate a little over 28%. Jay Savina hit 280 with 1000 OPS, 5 extra base hits, 3 home runs, 7 RBIs. And Kobe Morales hit 261, 979 OPS, 2 home runs, 5 RBIs, 6 walks. Over his last 14 games, he's hitting 318. He's hit 5 home runs. And the last guy is Gary Martin. He hit 240 with 4 home runs, 7 RBIs.
It's funny when you look at that lineup, it might not have the names in it with the prospect cachet,
Yeah.
but you got a lot of double A mashers in
Hmm.
that lineup. So maybe it's an interesting offense to watch. And Garrett Martin,
Yeah.
he's a freak athlete. And if he's starting to
Hmm.
put the baseball side of it together, then that is a prospect. And Luciano, yes, probably should be in AAA. But in the Yankee organization, I don't know where he plays in AAA.
Yeah, I think you kind of hit on it. This team is probably the least exciting from a prospect pedigree perspective, but this offense has just been so much fun to watch. And Garrett Martin he had his 11th home run tonight. He had 14 all of last year. Kobe Morales, who split time between he played 116 games between Hudson
That's it.
Valley and Somerset. He had his eighth home run. He hit seven all of last year. Um, Luciano, obviously, he's had double digits now. It's Jay Savina, who had a really awful. He was a top 20 prospect for me. Got off to a really awful start, was striking out 40% plus of the time. Still striking out a lot, but he's now hitting extra base hits every game, it seems like.
Hmm.
And this offense has just been special. And I think they're the magnum opus isn't the right word I'm looking for, but they're the crucial point to look at. It feels like this system, the offense, there's a lot more power production. I think it's kind of the next step in Jarrett DeHart, him being there is first it was just getting the bats to a better spot where they're producing more. Now it's just getting that power up another level, getting that game power going. And we're seeing it with Garrett Martin, who I agree, Marcus. He doesn't walk a lot, but he plays solid defense, doesn't swing and miss a ton, and has really good power. He's definitely a guy who could be a utility outfielder. Kobe Morales could play a little outfield first base, and now that he's showing power from the left side, that really helps a lot. It's a very fun squad now that George Lombard is gone. Yeah, none of these guys I peg as starters are like really top 20, maybe even 30 prospects, but I still think there are guys who could interest teams and, maybe have not a Ben Rice effect, but be guys who actually stick around because, they do have some traits that can work at least from the bench.
On that note, what do you do with Marco Luciano? Because in my thinking is, hey, you rehabilitated him. He brought his value. He got his prospect value back. Why not cash in on that?
You mean in a trade?
Yeah.
No, I'm wondering that too. If somebody comes and tries to get him when it comes deadline time, he's hard to evaluate though, in the sense that we've said it before, he's probably playing down a level. So what do people think of him? I'm curious to see when the first, like after scouts get their first round of looks at guys and the publications start to mention names or what they're seeing. I'm wondering what that's going to be if his name starts popping up where people say, no, we think he's back. We think he's got the shine back on his prospect status.
I still don't think I mean, it's never going to be what it once was. You're not getting a legitimate piece for him. I think I don't want to rain on the parade too much, but I don't think we're talking about the top 100 prospect Marco Luciano. But I think we are, he does have an above average zone contact rate, which is impressive. Yes, he does swing a bit too much, which leads to some chasing. Um, but he's definitely rehabilitated to a point where you got to see what he can do in AAA, I think, before
Yeah.
you can really talk about that.
Hmm.
But he's someone, honestly, to me, regardless of whether he gets traded or someone just picks him up if he elects free agency after this year, I think he's gotten to himself to a point where he can get another MLB opportunity, which is what I want for him at this point. It's the same thing for Yanquiel Fernandez and Brennan Davis last year. It always sucks to see guys probably not get the looks they deserve for one reason or another. So I do hope at the very least this rehabilitates him that someone will say, hey, let's give him a chance.
Unless they're going to be in the reliever market again, right?
Hmm.
So what they spend 10 prospects last year trading for relievers?
That's it. I thought there was
So
more.
what was
More.
Bird? Bird was two, and
Bird was
there four for
two,
Bednar and four for Doval. Is that right?
three
Why do
for
you gotta remind me
Bednar,
of
one
that?
for Duvall.
Three for Bednar.
So
So
it was
whatever.
nine, I guess.
So
But then you'd have, yeah.
that tier of their farm system where we're not trading our top guys, but we're trying to put packages together, maybe some quantity to pull in major league relievers. If that's a guy they come looking at, then great. Then he became a useful person in that organization. I hate to talk about him like he's a commodity, but um, unfortunately, that's how the business goes.
And shout out to Jesus Rodriguez, who made his debut, was it 2 nights ago? It's already homered.
Yeah, that was
Yep,
awesome.
awesome for him.
On the pitching side of things, you had Kyle Carr had his best game at Double A, six shutout innings, no walks. Love to see that. Seven strikeouts. Cade Smith threw 6 innings, 1 run, 1 walk, 5 Ks. Jack Siebert, 5 1/3 innings, 1 run, 3 walks, 7 strikeouts. Trent Sellers, 4 2/3 shutout innings, 1 walk, 10 strikeouts. In the bullpen, you had Chris Keene, who threw 3 innings, 1 run, 6 strikeouts, and Ben Grable, 2 1/3 shutout innings with 3 strikeouts.
I'm so Aaron Seabird is your guy, right?
Hmm.
It's so weird to me with him with Grable. How did they get to where they were in the draft? I
You
don't
know,
get
I
it.
guess I get, great. It's really weird with the draft. I think the eighth through 10th rounds you're really seeing are kind of punt rounds ish.
Senior
Not
signs,
that,
yeah,
not to say good guys can't go in there, but yeah,
sure,
that's kind of where they teams start saving a little bit of money.
right.
Um, but yeah, Grable was a senior sign. Both of them were senior guys, so that definitely contributes to it. But yeah, Jack Sieber, I can't remember. I don't think he even started at Texas Tech. I'm curious how they scouted this guy because yeah, he just has
Yeah, I think he was a reliever coming out of college.
he was, and it's just, you could see, okay, yeah, that sinker looks great. That sinker has great movement, but this guy has just such pristine mechanics and everything overlays so well that, I compared him a little bit to Cam Schlittler. He's a guy who has three fastballs. They're definitely not as hard as Cam Schlittler does. That's why Cam Schlittler has the ace potential in the MLB. But I think if he throws them for strikes a good amount. If you can I think the cutter could use a little bit more work. That's the pitch that got him into trouble in his Double A debut. Um, but it's just so pristine that you see some of these swings. A guy thinks this. I remember a left-handed hitter at two strikes on him. He thought he was getting a four-seamer because the four-seamers, or excuse me, he thought he was getting a sinker and it just stayed straight. It was a four-seamer to the corner of the plate, and instead of going off the plate, and you struck him out, and it was just crazy to watch this guy walking back to the dugout. He was just like he knew he got punked, and it was incredible.
The wrong. When you mentioned Schlittler, I thought the same thing, and I can't even really explain why he makes me think of Schlittler because I'm not saying he's going to have that kind of stuff. Just the raw material, though. The guy who just looks like he knows what he's doing. It looks like a guy
I
who
would
could
say
be a
his mount,
starter.
his mount present also is also plays into that as well.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's just
he
got
just
this
has
feeling
that.
about him.
Yeah, he just has that swagger on the mound.
Yeah, it's just very mature. We've had a lot of good prospects come through this organization and through the draft. We've had a lot of guys in the later rounds who have impressed us. It's unbelievable they got a guy this together at this point. Xavier Rivas is a guy we love. He's not together like this. Dylan Lewis was a lot more raw. Brendan Jones was maybe the closest hitter comparison is a guy who had it pretty well together with, not the biggest high upside, but definitely had real starter potential. And that's what I see with Jack Seaver. I don't think he's going to be an ace, but I think he could be a really solid four right now. And maybe he does add some velocity, but it's just him and Grable have just been so fantastic and so fun to watch. And I think they really if they really want to do it, they could easily be in AAA after the trade deadline if they're still here.
Yeah, and it's so funny too now when you think about what the drafts used to be like, where, all right, maybe I'm not paying as close of attention when they get past the 10th round because those are lottery tickets. And now it's kind of like you look back at their drafts and think, well, this 17th rounder didn't do anything. What the hell happened there? Because they've just gotten so much out of their drafts. Their domestic scouts are just doing a fantastic job, and the development group has done what they're supposed to do with them.
I think a big part of it, and I'll just make this my last point, but a big part is I think they are clearly at that stage of the draft looking for just one trait. Just give me one trait and we'll take it from there. And I don't know if it was I'm guessing it was probably his horizontal movement, both glove side and arm side. But they saw that that run he gets on that sinker, And they said, okay, that's what we need right now. That's what we're going to draft you. Lovich, they saw the pure power. Same with Dylan Lewis. That's probably what they saw with him. I'm guessing that's their strategy, and they're just so good right now at optimizing everything else around it.
And
And
the
it's very fun.
synchronizing of their departments for the pitching development group to be able to say, this is what we can work with. This is what we identified something we're
Yeah.
successful with, and then be able to get those guys. And the same if they're doing that on the hitting side. And that's why I have a lot of hope for what they're doing internationally. If they can do that same thing and say, we've
Hmm.
identified this is the type of player we can be successful with, then
Totally.
that's powerful. Of course, in that case, you're doing it with 14 and 15-year-olds, so that's still a different
Um,
story.
just sidebar on that in regards to international, they've signed their third European player last week.
Yeah, that's really
Hmm.
that's really something. German?
Hmm.
I love it.
So German, Dutch, and was it Hungarian? Who was
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
catcher?
I was Hungarian.
Okay. I can't keep it straight though. Those two guys are 27s, the last two they signed. The catcher and the German pitcher, those are January.
Marco was supposed to be 26, but this it was some snafu with his paperwork, so he's not going to debut until next season.
Okay. But so he's not signed yet then.
Yeah, I believe he is signed.
Okay.
I
All right.
believe
So
he is
he's
signed, but he's not debuting until next year.
26 class, just isn't going to
Yeah.
play this year. Okay.
Moving on to Scranton, he had Spencer Jones. He had 400, 1423 OPS, 5 home runs, 11 RBIs. If you've been under a rock, he just got the call today. Um, all I can tell Yankee fans right off the bat is you're going to need to be patient because there's going to be valleys, there's going to be peaks. Who knows how long he's going to be up here for, but you're going to have to be patient.
Yeah. Crummy circumstances under which he's coming up.
Yeah.
Because
Hmm.
I really think Jason's was playing his best baseball.
Yeah.
Um, but whether it's the right choice or not, it's the most exciting choice to make to bring Spencer Jones up right now.
I would say it's the most non-Yankee choice. I expected them to call Cabrera.
Yeah,
I just
right.
think this is I think this is the perfect time though, because you
You're
know
right.
there's
It's
no
the
obviously
logical choice.
Jason's out for a little while still. He's gonna be out for a while. There's no news on Stanton. This is the perfect runway to give him, 2, 3 weeks to just get a chance to see the major leagues. And I've been I said was saying this in relation to George Lombard if he does make the pros that a lot of these prospects they struggle the first time through. It's just the way it's going now. Very few get it going right away. So expect Spencer to struggle and strike out a lot, but it doesn't mean there won't be signs of him learning. I think we saw that with Elmer, in that rough first inning of his second start, and then he kind of adapted and fought through. And it will be useful for him as he goes back down to AAA to eventually come back up. So yeah, it's just perfect runway. The team is playing well. You've got good protection around him. Let's let him play some. He's definitely gonna strike out a lot, but I expect to see at least a few home runs.
Yeah. Someone tagged me. I forgot who it was. My fault on that. It was a graphic. Think I think it was John Boy that put it out. It was a side by side of Spencer Jones and
Judge.
Aaron Judge, right?
Uh,
When they got the call up, and I said, yeah. And let's not forget how
just
that
what we
went.
need.
Let's not forget how
Just
that,
what
but
we need.
yeah, but let's not forget how that went. The Judge was like
Yep.
at a 45% strikeout rate, and people were ready to cross him out to move
Right.
on from him.
Hmm.
The 100th
Yeah,
percentile
definitely.
outcome is Judge. So,
Yeah.
Listen, I'm expecting probably a golden sombrero tomorrow just because it's Mizorowski on the mound.
gonna
Yeah.
say, what a great way to introduce him to the big leagues, a total freak on the mound that he's got to deal with.
Yeah, but then
So
I'm
definitely
expecting
not.
in the second game, I expect he goes 2 for 4 with 2 home runs and 3 strikeouts.
Yeah.
Well, if he
Yeah,
follows the
no.
pattern of recent top prospects, he'll homer in his first at bat, and
Mm.
then he'll have a nice honeymoon period with
Golden
that.
sombrero.
Yeah. Listen,
But
I think it's obvious that there's a lot of doubt in his prospect profile. Even as someone who's high on him, I see it and I acknowledge it. I don't fully expect him to be a guy who has a long, illustrious career in the pros, but it's just exciting to finally get the chance to see. It's not theory anymore. It's we
Yeah.
finally get to see it.
You've seen him mash in spring training now. Let's see it in real
Yeah.
games.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're absolutely right. He's going to need time, and that's because everybody's going to need time. Unless your name is McGonagall, then you're not just going to come up and
Yeah.
start ripping the league in
Juan
half.
Soto.
Yeah, right. It's the way
Yeah.
it is. It's a
Hmm.
huge jump from AAA to the big leagues.
Yeah.
So I still contend he is a unique player.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
if he does, I'm not expecting him to do what he's doing in AAA. We're not going to see a 950 OPS in the big leagues.
He's not gonna be
Well, I would
Murakami.
love to eat these words. I'm glad we're recording this because I want you to play this back and see how
You told me he's
stupid
not
I
gonna be
am.
Murakami.
Yeah. So, but right. And there's a guy everybody thought there's no way.
Yeah.
But anyway, I if he's playing defense, if he can get on base at a decent clip and need to hit a home run every day to be a contributor, it just can't be. He's going to strike out. Everybody knows he's going to strike out. That can't be the only thing we talk about.
Yeah.
So hopefully he contributes in his time in the big leagues here.
Rounding out the pitching side of things, you had Brendan Beck, who threw one of his best games. He had 7 innings, 2 runs, a walk, 4 strikeouts. He also got the call yesterday. Was it yesterday?
He
Pitched
pitched
Yeah,
today.
he
today,
He
pitched
pitched
today.
today.
and he pitched today, right? I think he had a successful debut.
Yep.
Giovanni Cruz threw 3 and 2/3 shutout innings, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts. He should be one of the guys to get the next call. You have Harrison Cohen, who threw 3 1/3 shutout innings, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts.
They have 40-man spots open, if I'm not mistaken, right?
I
I
think they
think
have
Brendan
one.
Beck took the last one.
He took one. I thought they had more than one.
Or
I'd have to go
maybe
check.
they did have. Oh, they DFA'd someone, right? Grichuk. So I guess he took Grichuk's spot. So yeah, they still have one open.
Yeah, because that might be Cruz's at some point.
Well, they did just call up Kervin Castro to take Beck's spot, so I think Cruz are going to wait a little bit longer. He
Yeah.
gave up a home run tonight, Giovanni Cruz. He's starting to, I don't want to say cracks, but he's yeah, I think some of that run luck he was getting 'cause his FIP was not that it was high, but it was definitely a little higher than his ERA. Um, but it's still a good find. But I just want to talk about Beck real quickly. I think we saw today in his 3 innings, like this is a guy who doesn't really have the stuff to be stick around as a big time starter, and probably not someone who really has a chance to impact the Yankees just because of all the pitching depth we do have. But just all he went through with the Tommy John and this surgeries he had after that to get on the mound, and even if he did give up some hard contact, he fought through and gave us 3 innings in a game we needed, and ended up winning when basically everyone thought we were punting. Um, just hats off to him. Very happy for him. I hope he had a good time. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, it's great. Love to see it.
Moving on to the next topic, Baseball America dropped their updated top 100. You had George Lombard, who moved up from the original, came out, I believe, towards the end of January, the top 100. They updated it yesterday, I want to say. George Lombard originally debuted at 46. He's up to 15 now. Elmer Rodriguez debuted at 59 this year. He's up to 49. Dax Kilby started the season at 50. He's down to 61. And Carlos Lagrange started at 93, and he's up to 76.
I think the key two things to note, like the only true movers here are Legrand and George. There was a lot of graduations of
Mhm.
guys. McGonagall is the main one. But there are Tully, I think, believe graduated too. Maybe he hasn't yet, but he's about to. Either way, Rodriguez and Kilby basically just kind of moved down generally from that. But I think that hot spring training, even if there's been control issues as a starter in AAA, that hot spring training and that flashy stuff helped LeGrand move up a little bit more. And then
Mhm.
obviously Lombard, we've talked about on here, but just so much more in control of his zone and being more aggressive and making hard contact and hitting for power. He made all the right changes we wanted to see, which is what earned him a AAA promotion. Um, it's it was well deserved because he was in the 20s, fell back just because he didn't really look great in Double A, even though he wasn't bad last year. Other guys jumped him. Now he's jumping back up to where he deserves to be.
It's funny when I saw those names that, I was I was down on the system before the season started just because the talent had thinned out so much through trades. But I've been so encouraged by their early play and all the names that we've been discussing here. I forgot about Dax Kilby because he hasn't played yet.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, oh yeah, we've got that guy too. And then he's a top 100 prospect. He hasn't even played this year, so it's something gives us something to look forward to.
You know, I think that I'm happy that the four guys who stayed in there, who were in there in the offseason are still there. Ben Hess was really the only real opportunity to move into the top 100, and obviously that injury kind of put a stop on that for now. And it's funny because yeah, the system's definitely in a healthier spot given the hot starts we've seen from pitchers and hitters.
Yeah.
A lot of the guys we talked about tonight. But there just really isn't anyone right now that's looking primed to jump into that top 100 from here, which is fine.
Yeah, that's
But
fair.
it's as much as I like Siebert, I'm not really sure how much of a top 100 love Siebert's going to get just because of his age. Not to say that I think there's probably a few guys that he's better than and will have or more likely to have a better pro career than, but that he's just not probably going to get that love. But
And to piggyback on that
um,
point, I don't care. Ben
yeah,
Rice never got that attention. Cam
James Fuller
Schlittler
got
didn't
it
get
very
that
late. He
attention.
got it very late. Yep.
Yeah, keep going back. Robinson, Cano, like a lot of guys have come through the
Will
system.
Warren. I mean, obviously
Yeah,
Will Warren had a rough start last night, but he's looked better than he did the year before.
right. So I
Which yeah, he's progressed.
whether they get that kind of attention or not, I think what these guys are doing is exciting enough.
Hmm.
Are you guys not surprised that Spencer didn't get any love, like even in the 90s?
No.
A little bit for me. Like if he's on there, then he's 98, 99,
Yeah.
100.
Like I
Yeah.
thought he might have been in the low 90s
Yeah.
somehow
I
because yeah,
think
how good he's been playing.
they did it to him. Gave him that love last year. He basically was moved out after how awful he was. I think he's just a guy they're content being in that 100 to 150 range. I know that, his I've been posting it on Twitter since 4-6, his zone contact had been around 75%. Striking out obviously was less, but I can just understand how they got to a point where this guy's 25. I think we know what he is. Um, so, at this point, it doesn't really matter to me that he wasn't top 100. Um, I'm not too surprised that it's a little prospect fatiguey, but they got some new guys in there. A
Mhm.
couple of nationals guys that I'm high on, and Ronnie Cruz and Seaver King and Devin Fitzgerald. They said is one of the ones right who just missed. So it didn't shock me too much. It's just kind of the nature of the beast.
And I love BA and have for a long time, and I
Mhm.
respect all those guys there. But I know from listening to some of them speak that they've been out on Spencer Jones and for reasons that
Yeah.
we brought up, that it's not happening in their eyes. And I can see that affecting, like when they put that list together and they chime in, there's going to be people who are just not considering him a top 100 prospect and won't.
I only brought it up because someone recently asked me, do the Yankees have another top 100 guy coming soon? And I said, I don't know. I don't see it right now.
If it's gonna happen, it's gonna be I would say honestly the most likely is McEwer. Just with his stuff. They were already high on him. I
Mhm.
believe they had him ranked 12th. Um, so let's see. It won't happen. Probably maybe till after the trade deadline one. But if he starts getting going after, this is only his second start. He's still building up a bit. If he really gets going and is throwing with better control and is striking out a lot of guys like I think he can, I can see him making that big jump. He won't be 22 until July 7th. And also, Bryce Cunningham is a guy they liked a lot. He was probably someone they were close to putting in the top 100 last year before his injury. So, let's see where he gets going. Obviously, looked really nice last night. Let's see how he does as he gets back to full strength. I would
And
say those are your two best bets. Also, Thatcher Hurd, just
I
if
was just
he's,
gonna say
I
they have
don't,
guys there who like him too.
yeah, I don't know what was throwing velocity wise the other day. All I know is he was one of the best stuff guys in college when he came out of the draft. He just didn't know where it was going. So, but that's always a good place to start if you're talking about a guy who wants to get on a top 100. If you have great stuff, they're going to notice that.
Mm. All right. I think on that note, unless you guys have anything else, we're gonna head out.
I'm good.
All right. All right, guys. Thank you very much for tuning in. On the way out, please make sure you hit the like button. If you haven't done so already, please hit the subscribe button. On that note, guys, have a good night.